before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty, and on today's episode of Connecting Through Wrestling, I present to you the man behind this podcast, Bryan Asbury. Bryan, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Have something in my eye, but we're doing okay. So, you know the way this works. I'll just go ahead and give you the first question. What made you want to get into professional wrestling?
Well, I grew up a wrestling fan. My father got me into it. And then let me see if I can remember how this all played out. I started training at 15 or 16 under Brad Lehman out of Holton, Indiana, middle of nowhere place. Actually, my oldest son lives out that way now.
The Holton Gym, right?
Yes. And go ahead.
Holton's a good place. They got the Holton gas station has really good ham salad sandwiches. But anyway, go ahead.
So I trained under Brad Lehman for a little bit, and he used to run shows called Enigma Pro out of Holton. And I think that's where I really got my bug, was there, because Brad was running in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, and he was bringing in Chris Hero, Nigel McGuinness, and all these top guys, and wrestling in front of 15, 20 people. And from there, we ran a couple of shows.
It's safe to say he didn't make his money.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, nowhere near. But you know, there's so many memorable people from that. There was Johnny Sparks. There was Scott Magnum. Johnny Sparks would drink the Sparks Energy drink, and then he'd be ready to go. Scott Magnum speaks for himself, you know. So from there, you know, Enigma Pro shut down. We moved to Columbus training, not for very often. Brad ended up just taking my money and talking some shit. This is going to be a very truthful and honest podcast.
Yeah, no. Awesome. Sounds good to me.
And he got out of the business. And then from there, you know, but I'm like 15, 16 at this time. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
So at the age of 15 or 16, you were training. Did you work on shows at all, or were you just like ring crew or?
Ring crew. Majority of my story is ring crew, production, and podcast. But as we go along, you'll learn that I've always been a bridesmaid and never a bride, and always been on the cusp of some things. So after that, I want to say I tried to do some work with HBW, Hoosier Pro Wrestling, to help put together their website for a short period of time. You can see me in their documentary they made years ago.
Was it before or after the documentary?
Yeah. This was well before. And then I want to say from there, it was SIPW.
Now that's when you and I started working together, basically.
Yes.
So yeah, Southern Indiana Pro Wrestling, the greatest show that never happened.
Well, there's two shows that we'll call the greatest shows that ever happened.
Right. But at the time, from 2008, when it didn't happen, up until the other show which we'll get to, this was the greatest show that didn't happen.
Yep.
And it was the reason I remember it is because we knew each other through going to OVW shows and watching stuff like that, and school and stuff like that. But you approached me and asked me if I wanted to be the ring announcer. I remember that. I was like, sure, might as well. Let's try it. At that time in place, Mortimer Blankenship had not even been thought of. didn't exist. So that show was yeah, I was the ring announcer Matt Robinson. So, that that was crazy. But I guess that's one of the ways that found out that you and I kind of balance each other out when it comes to things like doing a podcast or running a wrestling show because I'll let you tell the story of what happened and then how I basically did my best to um, correct the situation, but of course it didn't work out.
Very, very true. So we rented a show. We rented a building out in Seymour, Indiana, to run SIPW. And it had I Got a Brewski. It had Tank Toland. It had Jake and Dave Chris. It had the Metal Master Chad Collier. Who else was at that show? Uh,
Seth Skyfire.
Seth Skyfire, Drake Younger,
Hmm.
and then there, along with Tank,
Dustin Ray's.
Destin Reyes was there. So it was a collective people, and then when Tank showed up, he brought Jillian Hall, which kind of caught everybody off guard.
So what? Um, and then what were those pretty boys that were supposed to wrestle against the Irish Airborne?
They were OVW guys. I really liked them. One's name was Zach, and I don't maybe Josh.
Right.
They were at OVW,
I'll continue on once you tell more of what happened.
and then there was a very important person I met that night, and that was Jason Ayers,
Hmm.
current WWE referee. There's going to be like 4 or 5 people that I talk about that I owe everything to. But yes, so Irish Airborne was going against those guys. Drake Younger, Chad Collier. It was a collective group of very talented people. I mean, they offered to wrestle on mats. There was people outside waiting to get in, so we paid for everything. Everything was taken care of. And then the guy that we rented the ring from and the stage setup never showed up. I paid in advance. Now, granted, I was how old was I? Was this '08?
So hey.
Was I like 18, 19?
Hmm.
Just a baby. Um, so he took my money, said the ring truck broke down, and just never even attempted to deliver. At which point, I remember Tank Tolan calling him and telling him to get his ass here and that they needed to have a conversation.
Right. And then Drake was like, "Let's make every match a street match."
Yep.
And then um, the two blonde kids were like, "No, we're not doing that."
I will
Um,
say everybody was paid.
everybody got
Everybody,
paid.
they
I
all
remember
got
that.
paid. Yeah, I paid.
Made
I
$0, but everybody got paid.
paid well.
Yeah, yeah. They're probably like, look at this money, Mark.
Yep.
That's that's guarantee what happened. But I remember I was doing everything I could because you contacted the Van Zants, and we were trying to
Hmm.
get their ring,
We're trying to get a ring anywhere we could.
and I was trying to find a truck to move the ring because the Van Zants had a ring, but we had to move it ourselves.
Hmm.
And I remember going, well, we've got. It was like 2 hours before the show started,
Hmm.
and he said that he had a wreck and that he couldn't bring the ring. So I remember that behind my grandma's house, there was a box truck, and I went there and I was like, "Hey, can I use your box truck?" He's like, "Man, that thing hasn't ran in years." I'm like, "Son of a gun!"
Hmm.
So we tried to do that. Eventually, I recall that when you finally said this, it's not going to happen. I had to
Get on the PA.
um, get on the PA and let everybody know what had happened,
Hmm.
and you gave everybody their money back plus a free ticket to what the next show was going to be. But that
Hmm.
never happened either, unfortunately.
No, and at 18 or 19 years old, I was taken advantage of. I mean, that's plain and simple, obvious, and people saw that. Um, and then
but do you remember what the guy that took advantage of you sent to you?
Oh yeah, what did he? He sent me like a little pamphlet of how to promote shows and
It was what wasn't it a pro booking for dummies or something like that?
yeah, just pour salt in the wound, basically. I have forgiven said fellow, and we've actually done business together
We
since.
we've worked with this guy.
um, and then shortly after that, I received a Facebook message from Jason Ayers. Said he felt bad about what happened and that he was going to run a show in Bloomington, Indiana called Shockwave Pro. And it had Jim the Anvil Neidhart on it, and he wanted to show me the ropes. Now I was dumb. I was green as shit. I didn't know anything. He's like, you can come stay at Casa de Zebra, and I'm like, what is that? A hotel? And he's like, no, I'm a referee. It's my house. Just all kinds, And at this time, we ran the Enigma Pro show. Not Enigma Pro.
Shockwave.
Shockwave. Sorry, I'm old. And
Yeah,
it
they
did.
all run together once you get to a certain age.
Yeah, because they worked with Donnie Tsunami, and he was running Infinity Pro down out that way too,
Hmm.
in Spencer, Indiana, I believe. And so we kind of worked together. Did a very successful show. Jim Neidhart was nice as could be. We went to the school. He talked to the kids, all kinds of stuff. Set this whole thing up. And at that time, I had started also, and this was MySpace days too. I had started talking to a young individual called TJ Wilson on MySpace. Just bullshitting, getting advice, just talking. This person would eventually turn into Tyson Kidd in the WWE. I didn't reach out to him because he was part of the Hart family. It just kind of happened.
Hmm.
And so my career or my dream was going in two different directions. TJ was helping me, keeping me, just giving me advice, pointing me in the right direction. Jason did the Shockwave Pro promotion, and then he started working with Dragon Gate USA had launched, so he started refereeing for them. So I started riding out with him to Philly, New York, L.A., Miami, and I got to know Gabe Sapolsky and Jason and TJ. And my introduction to wrestling was John Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Brody Lee, Shima, all these amazing Japanese talents, his American talents, who were top tier and ready for that next level. So I think that's where I get my standard has always been take it serious like it's a job, not just sweatpants every other weekend. I'm a pro wrestler. Um, so when I just started with Jason, with Gabe, I was just setting up chairs, passing out flyers, and selling tickets,
Paying dues.
paying dues. Yeah, and I did some New Jersey shows, and like the most weird, like New York, New Jersey is crazy. We were like a random building in like a neighborhood, and the whole upstairs was like a fight club. It was a wrestling ring, and
Wow.
it was crazy. But we were filming out of there, and then Dragon Gate USA caught on, and then I went from setting up chairs, selling tickets, to all that to I did some camera work. I did some ring announcing. I did some. I was the music guy. Eventually took over production. Worked with Sal and all kinds of people. Um, and I really just learned. I was quiet and I learned during this time because I was getting to live my dream. What I thought was my dream, like traveling and just being embedded in wrestling 24/7. Like during the week it's my 9 to 5, and on the weekends I'm all over the United States living this, And then here comes the Discovery Plus channel. They're filming something for Shima Ion, you know, uh, filming his story, and we're gonna, we're hugging and all this jazz, and then we're filming Evolve, and then we're filming Dragon Gate USA, and one by one, my friends are getting signed to WWE, and it's crazy. Like, we would do these shows, and then like that Monday, John Moxley signs with WWE Developmental,
Right.
and like I just remember being around these people, and Matt Hardy would show up, Rebby Sky, adult film stars would show up trying to get into professional wrestling, and I was like, what is my life? Like, what is?
So, so it had to be hard to. I mean, you enjoyed the fact that you were in
Mm-hmm,
wrestling, but
mm-hmm.
there's also that part where awesome, my friends are moving up, but it almost felt like you might have been being left behind a little bit, to the point where that had to work on you a little bit, but it also gave you the drive to try to go on and do more.
Yeah, that's why I took my health very serious.
Right. Which, in taking your health seriously, you almost reversed it to 180 and went south with your health,
Mm-hmm,
unfortunately.
mm-hmm.
Um, I recall uh, you basically went into kidney failure, right?
I had some kidney problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying, so I got this in my idea. Like, I was having a good run, a good ride. Jason got signed. Now, Jason, my carload was Johnny Gargano, Kalisto, Jason, constantly, and then sometimes we would pick up Brody Lee or Ricochet. But that was our carload. So that was my wrestling family at the time.
Right.
um, Jason got signed. So now it's like, if anybody knows me, I have a comfort. Jason was my comfort. And now I have to do this on my own. Now I'm flying to LA on my own. Now I'm flying to Miami on my own.
Right.
You know? And I decided that after Jason got signed and Moxley got signed and all them, that I was going to make the trip to Tampa.
Hmm.
It's where all my friends are. That's where I'm going. If I'm going to take this serious, I'm going to do it. So I started busting my ass, and I got into really, really good shape. And I was ready to go, and I made the decision to move to Tampa. And I get down to Tampa, and I'm like, I'm experiencing FCW for, seeing all my friends. The first night
Hmm.
I'm there, Tennille Emma is there. She just flew in. We had talked over Facebook, and I let her know that I was going down there, and then we sat in the audience together for FCW. Nobody knew who she was yet. I took her home to her place, and we hung out a couple of times, and so I was like, "This is I'm never leaving Florida. I'm never doing
Hmm.
it." And then slowly, your friends. It's cool when your friends are there.
Hmm.
It's not cool when your friends are on the road and you don't know nobody.
Right. So the question is, and I know a little bit about what happened in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
is if you, let me put it, let's see, all the people are not there, you're by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And um, I think it's fair to say that during this time, not so
Mm-hmm.
much nowadays, um, the fairer sex was your kryptonite.
Yeah. Um, because I was gonna stay in Tampa. My
Hmm.
roommate was I got Pox set up to come from England. We'd just done shows in Los Angeles, and he said, "I'll see you in Tampa, Brian." I said, "I'll get our apartment set up. I'll get you situated. You know, you'll come over here. We'll be good. Because like I hung out with Aiden English a lot. I hung out with Jason a lot. I hung out there. I finally met. I didn't meet TJ until I moved to Tampa. So I talked to TJ for years
Right.
online, and then we went to an LA Fitness and we met up, and it was like just like that, like the older brother I never had, just
Right.
and yeah, I made some mistakes. You know, my mom went through a divorce. I flew back, seen somebody I shouldn't have seen, and I kind of pissed away every opportunity I had because I really feel like I had an opportunity to get my foot in the door down there. There was options, and not only there, but I was still doing Dragon Gate, and I was still doing Evolve, and I was still flying out. Like that was, I remember picking Sami Zayn up from the airport, and like I was that guy. And like during this time period, I grew really close with Johnny Gargano. Like we were always together when we traveled, and it's a lot of, I feel like it's a lot of burden because I did not only did I piss away that, I my heart wasn't in it. WrestleMania 29, we were in New York, and Gabe could tell, and because I had taken some time off, and I came back, and I did not live up to who I was before because I was distracted and young and dumb, and we decided to, well, we parted ways, and which was right. That's what I deserved. You know, my heart wasn't in it. I don't know if it's called taking advantage of it. I just didn't perform WrestleCon weekend, WrestleMania weekends. I should have done more, and me and Gabe have talked since then, and we're good now. But a lot of my time, especially when I was younger, I was my own worst enemy, and I'm sure you can attest to that because there's a couple other things we got to talk about. And so yeah, I pissed away an opportunity. I thought I was going to have take someone's spot down in FCW when they got moved to the main roster. Just behind the scenes, like there was nothing set in stone. There was no. There was suggested, hey, why don't you try to do this? And young Bryan, I'm in shape. No, I want to be one of the boys. I want to wrestle, and I want to do this and that. Like I didn't have a shot in hell of getting signed to wrestle for WWE. Never have I thought in ring talent to be WWE. Just to be infatuated in.
Sorry, you cut out on this.
No, go ahead.
So I was waiting to.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you're back in Southern Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
correct? At this point, you feel as though you've pissed everything away.
Mm-hmm.
That all your, So what was your next step?
Well, before I left, I started training under Billy Rock out of Lafayette. So when I came back, I was in shape. Now, when I trained with him before, I was heavy, like I am now. But I came back in shape, and I was like, I just like to train. I like to bump. I like to just be in that environment. And I stopped because I was ignorant and dumb. And then I went through a messy breakup. The person that I pissed everything away for wasn't worth it. And a couple years went by, and I just, like I did, I used to come to Draven shows, and there's always talks of we could work together, but my viewpoint is very different from a lot of people around this area, I would say. So nothing ever came to fruition permanently, you know. So then I decided around 2000, was it 15?
Feels about right. Yeah.
I wanted to try to run a show, but this time in Indianapolis. I wanted to use the resources that I had, and really, really give it a shot. So I laid the stepping stones. I actually had a meeting with you We went to
Yeah.
Indianapolis. I had a meeting with you. I had a meeting with a couple other people. Like, I took
It
it
was
very
me and
serious.
Johnny Justice, Logan.
Hmm.
Um, we drove up and we met at the Irish pub
Yep.
in Plainfield,
And then
and
we met again with the camera guy
yeah,
another
at
time.
BJ's Brew
BJ's.
House. Yep, and we laid down some groundwork of what we thought what was going to happen. Now here's the thing:
This is the first
this
time we've
happened
publicly talked about this, too,
right,
by the way.
and
Yeah.
my problem is my memory folds the two different times that we not SIPW, but just the two times that we attempted Generation Next
Hmm.
wrestling.
Hmm.
They uh, intertwine in my mind. So
Okay.
this is where you're going to have to help me go through with what happened. The first time we were going to have the show with
Latitude 360.
Latitude 360.
Nice little
We,
setup.
yeah,
Stephen
Stephen,
very courteous.
Stephen, Stephen was the man. My buddy that I went to college with, Red, he worked there.
Hmm.
Um, it was a cool place. The setup was going to be amazing.
Amazing. We brought Mason in to try to run some lights and
Yeah. Um,
um. So you want me to tell the truth of what happened there?
yeah, go ahead.
So we were set to run Generation Next in January 2000. Maybe it was 14, and then we tried it again in 15. So January 2014, 2 years after I got back to Indiana, I'm like, let's do it. So we had Johnny Gargano, we had Ruby Soho, we had Trent Beretta, we had so many people building this hype. Sammy Callahan, all kinds of people. That was the second one. Um, So we paid, and the Latitudes was not cheap by any means, but the setup wasn't cheap either. Um, so we paid for the building, we were good to go, and then they filed. They didn't pay their taxes or something.
They got in trouble for tax evasion.
They got in trouble for tax evasion, and then they didn't give the money back.
No.
So it's embarrassing enough, and a lot of people don't think. We've never publicly talked about this. Um, They got in trouble for tax evasion and would not refund the money. And I want to say it was $1,000. I don't think it was anything cheap. And then plus for what we were going to use for the lights, the sound, all of that, because it was going to be like a little WrestleMania, baby. It was going to be off the wall, and they never refunded the money. And
This
then
place closed down.
it immediately closed down.
They filed bankruptcy and just it was done for.
I think it recently got bought, not a couple years ago.
The building
And
did.
yeah, it's another event center. But it's embarrassing enough, especially around here. A lot of people try to run a lot of shows and they always get canceled.
Right.
I don't know if that's everywhere else, but in Indiana that happens a lot. So I had to refund everybody their money. The talent was paid. Even Trent Beretta was hurt, and he was going to come in and fly in and just sign autographs for free. Like, he's like, just fly me out, we'll make it work, and then I'll sign some autographs. And then he was going to do a program with Gargano.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that sucks, because I feel like people were really, really hyped for that event.
They were.
We sold a
Tickets
lot of
sold out.
tickets. We sold a lot of tickets. And I had to refund all that, and that system wasn't anywhere near great or perfect. What did we use?
Ticket Hub.
No. Big Cartel. It was Big Cartel.
Mm-hmm.
Not user friendly by any means. So it took a while. When I say a while, it took a couple of weeks, I think, to get everybody their money back. They were reimbursed, and then I decided they're mad. And I don't think they were mad at us. They were mad at the situation because
No, I'm pretty sure they were really pretty freaking mad at you. I can tell that. They're pretty mad.
They were mad. Okay, I get it. I was bringing in talent that didn't wrestle here, so it's not Johnny Justice in Shelbyville, Seymour, North Vernon, Columbus. You know what I mean? It's people you don't see here. So they were mad. So I decided a year
Something
later,
different.
yeah. And then I had that put me in a big depression.
Well, yeah.
And then Ricardo Rodriguez reached out and gave me tickets for WrestleMania 30. Morty
Yeah, and
declined.
I couldn't. It was literally like the day before. You're like, "Hey, let's go," and I'm like, "I work a job, bro. I can't. I have no
so
vacation. I can't do this."
so I took Johnny Justice and then we went to the WrestleMania after party and excuse me, I had a good time and
Yeah.
I got to show Johnny that side of where I came from with those people and it made me itch. I wanted it. I wanted to do something successful, so I tried it again. Now,
Right.
granted, there was another promoter in Indianapolis, promoters that weren't going to have it this time. We ran in a different location, and I'm talking like Chris Lights Out Lytle was coming in. There was another UFC
What was that
fighter
location? I don't remember what it was called.
in the ghetto. It's off. It's on Washington, maybe. It's like the exit right when you get into Indianapolis. You go right. I think you. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't go there again. Um,
But it was a cheaper venue, right?
yeah, yeah. That's what we were doing. We were rebuilding, and for this
Right.
event, we were going to bring in
This
Chris
is.
Lytle.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to clarify to the people watching right now. This is where things get really muddled. This
Yep.
this is where things. Um, this would be. I know personally, if I was Brian, this would be the hardest part for me to tell in the whole story.
Yeah,
I don't know if it is or not,
it's embarrassing.
but this part here, this is the so just bear with us here because this is legitimately what happened, and it was rough.
So we're there, and we get a ring. We've got everything set up. You sign these papers for this venue, and they say non-refundable deposit, and you're like, oh no, nothing bad's gonna happen, nothing. Um, it what happened? So the one promoter called and said the show was canceled, um, which it wasn't. And then who was coming to beat my ass? Was it Joey Owens? If we're going to tell the truth, let's just tell. They didn't want me there. Nobody
Yeah,
wanted another promotion because, like, I was talking to Comcast about doing commercial. Oh, like I don't ever half-ass stuff. I don't.
you don't intend to half-ass stuff. You
Mhm.
just have had issues with pulling triggers.
Yes. Um. So we're set to go. It was the Irish Airborne were coming back. Sammy Callahan, Eric Cannon, um, James Rude Boy Riley, Zachary Wentz, which was what was his name in NXT,
Ace.
M- MJF. So I had all these people before they were famous. I found Mike Verna. All these people were going to come to Indianapolis, and there's a Generation X MJF promo out there somewhere. And this was before he was MJF. He had a different last name. It was still F, but it wasn't
Was it
Feinstein.
Feldman?
It was Fine Max. What's his name?
Feinstein?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So all
So
these people were coming, and then I had asked. So it was a mixture of issues here. So one of the talents. Go ahead.
what I'm saying is at this point in time, you were taking advice from someone,
Yep.
and so I'm jumping ahead here. Go ahead and let everybody know what happened and what your advice was.
You don't pay the talent before they do the job.
Right.
Um,
You already discussed you had discussed a price with someone. Are we going to name names who it was? That's your call.
well, I mean, one of them got canceled. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Anyway, so you got you discussed a price,
Yep.
and then they wanted to hold you up for more money.
They want me to pay them before they got there.
Right.
And then the advice I was given was no.
Don't pay them before they get there
They'll just
because,
leave.
huh?
They'll just leave.
Right. Right. You don't. You're right.
So
Uh,
then it was a mixture of things because it was
which you could tell who gave you that advice.
Rip.
It was Rip Rogers. Rip told you don't pay people before they get there, and they were wanting money for gas. They
Hmm.
said money for they wanted their money in advance so they can pay for the gas to get there. Right? Is that what it
Hmm.
was?
Hmm.
And you told them no.
Yeah, I've been burned once before. I wasn't gonna get burned again. And no disrespect, I never had a bad run-in with the people. But their stepdad had just died, and they were upset, and we had a mutual friend in Sammy Callahan, and Sammy tried to smooth it over, and it was a big hot mess. And then they shit all over the show, which it was pretty funny. Put the flyer in the dumpster on fire. I mean, it was pretty funny.
It,
Um,
it looking back, it's funny, but at the time you were pissed.
I was
So
mad.
yeah, basically, the way I recall, and tell me if I'm wrong. I recall they basically blackballed the show, told
Fuck,
everybody,
hell yeah, they did.
yeah, and
They canceled the show, not me.
yeah, and when this happened, because you told when this happened, another promoter from Southern Indiana, not even
Mhm.
in Indianapolis, picked up everybody for less of a price, is what I heard.
And booked the matches that I put together.
Yeah, and on that flyer, it was a dumpster on fire with pictures of your flyer coming out of it.
And they even used my graphics for their match in Southern Indiana. So that's the truth as to what happened with Generation Next. Now, long term plans were it would have went to a bigger a venue, and the plan was to run Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati, just rotate, build something there. Eventually, Chicago. But I've always got not in over my head, but I always thought bigger. And for those people that didn't know me, I see both sides. I wanted to build something special. They wanted their money. I wasn't going to pay them before they did the job because I had been burned before, and then they canceled the show for me, and that really upset me and it made me very depressed.
Yeah, because at that point,
That's when I started gaining all my weight back too.
right, and it was to the point where it went from being your mind was no longer wrestling. I mean, this is kind of a different interview. I'm not really interviewing more than we're just having a discussion.
Hmm.
Um, it, your mind went from wrestling to at that point finding someone to start life with. You kind of just decide wrestling wasn't going to be your thing.
Yeah, because I mean, like Tyson Kidd was sharing the stuff on social media. Like I called in all favors to
Right.
make
It was
Generation Next,
right.
and then I backed away. I had my first child, and I kind of wanted. I wouldn't even go. It got so bad that I couldn't even go to SmackDown or Raw when they were coming to town, and people would offer me tickets, and I couldn't do it. Like it was so. I was so depressed because all I've ever wanted to do was just entertain. Like show them what how my mind works, whether you like that or not. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. And it just felt like it was ripped. So we flyed the shit out of Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So much that the city of Indianapolis sent me emails saying you
Right.
cannot. So I'm like, I'm getting across. I'm getting out there.
So you
I started having kids.
started having kids, three of them, and um, so you become a family man.
Hmm.
Um, we're not going to get into any of that. That's not what this show was about. Um, but you got to the point in life where
Life was better without certain people in it.
right, and
My
that
kids
person.
sleep in their beds.
So at that point, what made you want to do what we're doing now?
So I was in a very, I won't go into too much detail. I was in a very toxic relationship, and this person made wrestling a very dirty word and did not help matters and spiraled me into a very depressive state. And I believed the lies I was being told and that I was worthless and all this jazz. After a couple of court dates come up, I'll discuss more. But I ended things. My kids live here with me. Most of the time, we share, but you know, anybody that knows me knows. Um, Life started changing after I took certain people out of it, and people kept reaching out. I eventually said, they reached out and said, get your ass here. So I went, and was told that there will always be a place here for you when you're ready, and I'm ready. I'm getting to be ready to that point, and I just thought like I have a very hard time. I've had a hard time talking, and because I used to care what people thought about me, and not so much anymore. And then I came up with this idea to talk about developmental because that's always been my passion is this level because it's the coolest level. You get to see people, you get to see them grow, you get to help them develop, you get to see who they're going to become. Because there was at a time in wrestling, it was you're on SmackDown, you sign a 2-year contract, you win the tag titles, you're fired. That's how it was for years. But back home, we seen different versions of people who, like the world saw Eugene. We had Mr. Wrestling Nick Dinsmore.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that was fair. That certain people got that rap because there was a lot of talent, like said Skyfire, who never got their due here. And I wanted to dip my toe back into wrestling, and I know that you had a fear because of the whole Generation Next thing, because wrestling people can be very assholish. Um,
Vindictive.
yes. So we original setup was shit. We started recording and we didn't release stuff right away, and we built to it, and it was fun. And we got to talk to people. I remember who was the first interview we ever did.
Was it
Was it
Jacob? It was. It wasn't a Jacob episode, but it was a
no like first wrestler? I think was it Sylvester Turkai,
first wrestler was Rip.
Rip, and then Sylvester, and then Bolin,
Mm-hmm.
and we got all these different perspectives, and my love for it grew fonder because I know that you said it'll take 5 years. It's taken a year and a half, and we're almost there. So I like to challenge.
Well, you
I like
say
to,
over. Mm,
but
okay,
the
here's the thing. I believe that you will get monetized before 5 years, but I think to the point where you could quit your job,
mm-hmm.
5+ years.
No. I'll say WrestleMania 40.
Okay.
I'll see you in Philly, baby. Um, no, but the podcast was an idea, and I knew it was a great idea because nobody, look it up, before developmentally speaking
Right.
was on YouTube, nobody talked about developmental besides Brock, Orton, Lesnar, and Cena. Lesnar.
Right.
Orton, Batista, Cena, Lesnar. Yes. Nobody talked about it. And we uploaded episode 1,
Hmm.
and it was like 600 views. And I was like, because the biggest fear you have is no one's going to watch your shit.
Oh yeah.
For me, like nobody's gonna watch anything I do, or they're not gonna give a shit, or we're gonna get trolled. I will say, I don't think we've ever gotten trolled yet,
It'll happen.
and I welcome it. Um,
I, I, I've seen comments from people on our videos that I know for sure
mhm.
are trolls, but
But the passion for it grew, and because it was hard, and I know some people think, oh, YouTube's easy. It was hard to tackle the subject we were tackling.
YouTube is hard. There is no easy way. There is no easy way to become a content creator. Um, it's not easy. There is
No.
no easy way. But so far, I mean, you came to me with this idea,
Hmm.
and I told you that I could help you as much as I can, which I did. I mean, we've done this part where look, you're running the shows now. When we started out, if you looked, the computer was in front of me. Now you're the
Hmm.
one with the computer over there. I'm just talking to you through mine. You do the editing. You've got it all figured out. You didn't know how to edit a single video when you first started doing
No.
this. Had no idea.
And I'll blame you for us having more than one show. And then I ran with the idea, baby.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
This was my
my
idea.
idea was, huh?
This was my idea.
Yep.
That was your idea right here.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I was like, oh, you know what? Let's do this one too.
Yeah.
Um,
But see, the glow up thing for me,
it's supposed to be a
that
one off.
it was supposed to be a one off, which
But it caught on.
which it did catch on. But it's definitely it's our smallest. Well, our smallest show is the donut hole, which we need to talk
Mm,
to Vito again
yes.
for sure.
And then,
That'll be fun to put out some more of those.
so, go ahead.
But you know, it's getting it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I like the connecting through wrestling. It's a very more open format because we could talk to anybody on it. Um, Glow Up is expanding from Glow to Wow to women's
Yeah.
wrestling in general. Developmentally
So,
speaking, we'll stay to the developmental territories, of course.
so
Um,
when we started, we didn't have any connections barely. I had some from
yeah, the ones you
past,
talked about in this interview. That was your
but
that was your
now,
introduction.
okay, a year later, who's in your contacts now?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, development speaking took a little bit to catch on, and now people trust us to tell their stories. Glow Up, we got exclusive interviews where no one else has been able to gotten these Glow girls because we handle it with such care. Connecting through wrestling has opened doors for WoW, has opened doors for the NWA, has opened doors for independent spotlights, working on AEW, working on.
Yeah, I mean the in okay, like for me, connecting through wrestling, that NWA connection we have
Mm-hmm,
is huge
mm-hmm,
because in a way, and I don't want to take this, the NWA is awesome,
mm-hmm,
but it's also right now until it gets bigger, it is almost in itself a developmental.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It isn't a contracted developmental, but they are learning. Like, especially if you go from doing shows that aren't on TV to doing NWA, you're televised. It's
Hmm.
studio wrestling. You know what I mean? Then they do live shows in front of people. They do live shows now that are actually shown on was it Fight, I believe.
Hmm.
So it, it, the NWA, in my opinion, is professional wrestling in a world full of sports entertainment.
Hmm.
However, I also see it as one of the best, up there with OVW right now.
Hmm.
OVW and NWA are probably and um, Tom Pritchard School in Knoxville. Those are the three when I think of developmentals that aren't NXT in today's world.
Hmm.
Um, so to have these connections with the NWA is great because we can learn about people as their careers grow.
And I will say that starting this podcast, I mean, it was never to replace my job. Like, seriously. Now I'm serious about it. It's growing. Uh, and there's like, we get new followers, subscribers, viewers, like every week. Like, there's not a week that goes by that there's not more likes or comments or
Right.
subscribers. Yes, it's going to take work, and I like that work happens, and there's outside variables that help this grow. The Wrestling Inc. article helped us tremendously. Getting Tyler Klutz on here, Brad Maddox, helped
Mm-hmm.
us tremendously. His first interview was with us. Um,
Jacob, the carpetbagger, has been a big help too. Again,
yeah,
he's he's been amazing. Um, Rip has been a help. I mean, let's be
Rip's a
honest.
huge asset.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people, but so um, I guess the last question that I have to ask you is, if you had any words of advice to give to someone who wants to get into the professional wrestling business, be it in front of the camera, behind the camera, wherever it is, what would it be?
It's not easy. It may look easy. It's not. You have to be passionate to want to be in this industry, in this business, whether that's in front of the camera or behind it. I know that we've had a lot of people say various answers, and I will say, if you don't take it serious, you're not a professional wrestler. If you don't um, work for it, then you're not. You're not a vet. You're not a. What am I trying to say here? Like, if you say you're passionate about it, show me you're passionate about it. Whether that's your in ring work ethic, that's your gear, that's your show. Don't book the same people over and over. Don't be afraid to get out of your safety net. It's about wins and losses, and that's just not in the ring. Um, I've ate more shit than I've had good times, good experiences. Well, that's not true. I've had to fall flat on my face more times than I can count to get to where I'm at today, and I'm nowhere today. But I'm in a good place. And if you are passionate about professional wrestling, take it serious because it will take you places. If you're good to it, it will be good to you. Um, don't piss away your opportunities. You will have to make sacrifices. I know that when I had kids, there was people, well, you can't do nothing. That's not true. None of that's true. My kids love it. My kids love who they get to meet, who they get to hang out with. They love going for the 5 minutes that they're there. They're like, let's go home. Like, they just like seeing people. And um, just be passionate about what you're doing. I'm sure that a lot of people have said a lot of negative things about me, and that's fine. Some of these instances were out of my control, but it was my product, so I took the heat for it. And I mean, there was almost a falling out with all of us because of this stupid shit. And I used to be an asshole. I took it personal. I'm still an asshole, but I'm nicer now. Huh?
I was about to say used to be.
But I'm passionate about this is my baby, and I am passionate about this product. This was my idea, and I will call you
100%.
out if you try to rip off my idea. But no, they're in a nutshell. Be passionate about what you're doing, because professional wrestling is hard. It's not easy. Train, eat, live, breathe it.
And if I may add, don't be afraid to pull the trigger.
I was afraid to pull the trigger for a very long time. And I used to think I should have done this 11 years ago when I had opportunities. And this is who I'm meant to be today. And developmentally speaking, is what I was meant to do. Help people tell their stories, and hopefully that expands, into the WWE.
Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Bryan.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.